please tell me a little bit about Marble Cake, which you're performing at the Place in Bedford on July 13th.
So Marble Cake is a really new play written by myself and my theatre partner, Nathaniel Allen. We started it last year. It was kind of the whole of last year. We were sort of on the journey with it, and we performed it for the first time last year too. And then a couple of months ago in another theatre in Southeast London. So this is our third location. It's a play that's basically about a mixed race brother and sister trying to navigate their sibling relationship as well as their dual heritage kind of over a course of one evening. They kind of come together for the first time in months. They haven't seen each other. It's quite obvious that they've drifted apart. And so, yeah, all of this kind of stuff comes to the surface for the first time as they have this reunion.
This dual heritage that you focus on, it is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I mean, my own personal experience is in Malaysia, I'm not Asian enough, and here I'm not white. Yeah. So it is what it is. So how have you navigated it, and how do you hope your play will resonate with people who are going through similar experiences?
I mean, honestly, the dual heritage thing is really a difficult one to navigate. And I think it's like, depending on where you're at in your life, you know, your experiences, the relationships you have or don't have with your parents has a big impact on how comfortable you feel with your mixed heritage. For me personally, it's been something that I've really struggled with, hence the play. And, you know, sort of through my life, I've really not found it easy, trying to sort of understand and realize like what my sort of ethnicity and my heritage means to me, versus what other people sort of look in and kind of see and presume that you should know about your culture. And then if there's a gap and you don't really have that cultural knowledge necessarily, you're kind of left feeling really, you know, pretty mixed up and not very good about yourself sometimes as well. And kind of some sort of level of like, you know, fraud in a weird way. Like you tell the story that you don't really tell by how you look, essentially.
The word fraud, actually, I mean, it's a very strong word, but I think it's a very important one because I don't necessarily think people understand the additional mental health struggles that people who are mixed race or who have this dual heritage experience. Do you mind sharing any of your own experience?
I am mixed race. My mum's English, white English, and my dad's British Nigerian. But I didn't have a relationship with my dad growing up. Unfortunately, you know, lots of different things happened, and our relationship broke down in a big way, to the point that I then didn't have a dad, you know, for most of my life. Really, he's not around. He's not in my life. I mean, he's technically around, but he's not in my life. We've seen each other for a really long time. So I've grown up in a very white English family, as the only person of color. And I think, you know, there was a long time where I kind of didn't really acknowledge that. And I just sort of thought, well, you know, no one really says anything, so it's fine. But then I guess as you get older and people ask you more questions and other sort of opinions start to kind of come into your sphere of existence, you start to question yourself. So it's weird because it kind of like happened in retrospect for me, this kind of like existential crisis that I went through with sort of not really understanding anything about being Nigerian, what it meant to be Nigerian and what that looks like to me, because I didn't learn it growing up. So I think that there was just a period where I kind of really tried to sort of get to know, I guess, but also kind of trying to sort of accept myself for not having grown up with it and not necessarily being totally intuitive with, you know, how I feel about being Nigerian. So I think it's like, you know, and I'm not saying that anyone kind of has to connect with their culture necessarily. And I didn't want to for a long time. You know, I actually didn't really want to. I kind of rejected it, if I'm honest. And then as I've got older, like I said, you know, I've wanted to connect more. So I've kind of been trying to sort of learn these things in retrospect, you know, big cultural things, food, hair, music, you know, all of that sort of stuff that's so different depending on the culture or the cultures that you are from or, you know, are part of your heritage.
What have you found in terms of this self-discovery? I
mean, I actually found that I've been more connected to Nigerian culture than I actually thought I could ever be, really, to be honest. Wow. And it actually feels kind of nice to be able to talk about it with people and actually, you know, connect on that level as well and actually have those conversations rather than sort of not knowing what to say and not having anything to say or anything to sort of bring to the table. And also sort of trying to kind of explain to people, and this is where the play comes into it. It's just like, it's a very niche experience having a dual heritage. You know, it's not one thing and it's not another. It's a mix of things, and the mix is so different. and can vary massively. So it's kind of like, it isn't as clear cut as having like one heritage or one identity, or but then who really has is who's it clean cut for? Do you know what I mean? Most people probably have something, some sort of, even if you're not dual heritage, you might have some kind of displacement with where you feel like you're from and where you're really from, that whole question. But like, all of that, I think, comes into the mix, really.
Yeah, and it's such an evocative title, Marble Cake. I really
Yeah.
love that. It's a great
Thank
title.
you.
and
Thanks so much.
with that, I mean, you write and you perform, you create at this piece. Was that creative process hard, or did you find any areas where you kind of maybe didn't want to go down that route, but then you had to, and so on? How did you find the creative process?
It was such a kind of like epic experience, like from right at the beginning to kind of like where we are now, with it. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have done this. Unfortunately, Nathan couldn't join today, but I couldn't have done any of this without him. And we've been such a pair, right from the beginning. And I think like it started out as a kind of conversation. Actually, my boyfriend suggested to me, because Nathan and I have been in plays and stuff together before. We've known each other since we were like 7. So our relationship goes back like years and years and years. And he sort of said to me, why don't you do a play? Why don't you think about doing a project with Nathan? And I was like, and I put it to him, and he was like, I don't really know how to write theatre. And I was like, me neither. But we've got a story to tell, and let's try and make it happen, And so, I mean, the writing process was really tough. I think that, I was always a bit nervous to write plays or try to write plays before, because my experience has been more as an actor and more kind of the performance side of theatre. But writing, I just felt very kind of overwhelmed by and quite intimidated by, if I'm honest, because I didn't sort of do any like playwriting I didn't study it, and I kind of thought, because it's quite theoretical and quite intellectual, and I kind of was just like, oh, I'm not really sure where to begin with it. So I think and so we started it based on a conversation about what would be important things to us. What story do we feel we can tell truthfully? And I always knew that I wanted to do something about dual heritage, because both Nathan and I are dual heritage, and I feel like we can tell this story, and now is a really good time to be telling the story. People are more interested and invested in diverse theatre now, and it's more of a thing than it has been. And I feel like we have a really unique perspective on that kind of thing, and hopefully it's interesting and eye-opening for people that don't really know that much about it, or people that do have personal experiences with it can feel connected to it in some way, shape or form.
What themes are you playing with?
The main overarching underpinning theme of everything is, dual heritage, sort of, and how that looks, and specifically we are kind of looking at, in this play, black and white. As ethnicities, but it's not limited to that. But that's where the angle that we're coming from, because we're talking about skin color as well in it, in bits of the play. And so that obviously trying to kind of hoping that people can resonate with, seeing maybe a little bit of themselves in it. But it isn't just about being mixed race. This is the thing that I kind of, want people also to understand about the play. It's about 2 young adults trying to basically find their way in the world, trying to kind of like grow up, navigate their adult relationships, manage their own kind of goals, dreams and ambitions, while still trying to, like be committed to their family and the responsibilities that come with family, and aging parents, and becoming a carer for your parent, and illness that can happen in families, and how that kind of, alongside you trying to sort of get yourself out there as a young adult and leave home, and it can all get really mixed up, and really it can be really difficult to sort of find a path, really. So it's kind of more universally about that, really, if I'm honest. And then the dual heritage part of the play is kind of, that's the lens that we tell it through, basically. So hopefully people can resonate with some sort of connection, whether it's a sibling that they've drifted from, a parent that they've drifted from, trying to leave home, trying to kind of excel in their career, but whilst also sort of wanting to be there for people that need them.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Chequered Theatre Company?
Absolutely, yeah. Chequered Theatre Company has been going for kind of not far from a year now. It's just Nathan and I at this minute in time. Maybe we'll grow it in the future. That would be great. But we started the company in order to do the show Marble Cake. So it's kind of, we decided to try to sort of focus. I mean, this is our first play as part of the company, but kind of like the whole kind of idea of the checkerboard and the kind of the black and white and the mixed race, and kind of that sort of like where we want to go in terms of like more work that we create, not necessarily all for it all to be focused on that, but somehow it to link in to the dual heritage topic that we're trying to kind of like explain and get out there basically. So yeah, it's just the company, it's just Nathan and I, and yeah, we're having a really great time on it so far. It's been amazing, honestly. Like I can't tell you, Audrey, like to do this with my best friend, you know, to create theatre and for it to have so much meaning behind it, you know, and for us to be making our own theatre in our own company. It's something that you know, if I'd have thought 5 years ago that could that happen, I never would have believed it.
I like that a lot, because there is something about telling your own stories with your own authentic
Yeah.
voice that makes a huge difference, that is actually even more freeing than generally creativity in the arts, which is already so important. I absolutely love that. Where can we find you and follow you in terms of your social media handles and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chequered Theatre. So it's on Instagram. We're at Chequered. So ChequuEred. So Chequered, because sometimes the spelling gets mixed up. Chequered underscore theatre underscore co. That's us, and that's where we've been sharing everything. That's kind of where we're at in terms of socials so far. So yeah, please give us a follow and you know check out our work and where we're touring the show. So we've got obviously this performance coming up, and then in October we're going to Liverpool to Hope Street Theatre. We're doing
Amazing.
3 nights in Liverpool, and then at this point, kind of we're sort of having conversations with a couple of different potential theatres. I think you know we might end up maybe looking to do it again in London at some point. I mean,
Fabulous.
we're kind of open at the minute. I mean, what I really wanted for us to do was to cast the net a little bit wider than London, you know, because so much about the theatre industry in this country, you know, comes from London and is sort of centered around London. And I feel like, you know, and also in the play, you know, my character, Acacia, she's gone away to university in Birmingham and she's ended up living in Birmingham. And so she comes back to London for an evening to see her brother. And obviously then all this stuff comes out and, you know, the play happens. But you know, sort of tying in like, other areas of this country because it's a kind of commentary on being mixed race in Britain, you know, and trying to kind of like have that. What does it really mean to be British? Who really knows? But especially to a person of color, it can really be, you know, a difficult thing to try and work out, you know,
Yeah.
because of history and because of the way the world is and the way the country is, and so because of that, I wanted to bring the show out, basically out away from London and try and sort of see how other people in other places of the country like find the show. You know, I'm really interested to know what resonates with people, what doesn't, how, you know, are they interested in it? Is there an appetite for this kind of play? Maybe there isn't, you know, and it's okay if there isn't. And I know that, you know, not everybody's into theatre and you know this play might not be for everyone, but it's the kind of play that I would hope you could take a risk on. It's a 65-minute show, it's a short show, it's one act, you're in, you're out, basically. You see the show, that lots of stuff happens, you know, it's a real emotional roller coaster, in a good way, you know.
Yeah.
There's bits and there's meaning and sort of some quite, you know, evocative moments in it, and you know, some sadness as well for sure, but there's also fun and it's also entertaining, and it's like because that's what relationships are. They're not ever just one thing. There is a whole range of moods, and we go through the whole spectrum in one 65-minute play. So hopefully, it's the kind of play that people could just go, do you know what? I'll give it a go. You know, it's
Yeah.
not a huge commitment. It's not a whole evening. You can kind of, you know, feed it into a night out, dinner, drinks, whatever, and see a short show. And yeah, so we want to sort of hear how it works and how it reads, really.
It will spark conversation, it will spark discussion, and it's discussion that we all need to have. Olivia, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you all the very best with your run.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to be on the show, and yeah, hope to see you on the 13th if you can make it.